Hey everybody, this is Marsilio, and I'm back with another video on my technical analysis setup. And this time I'll cover the other components beyond pivots. So there are many systems of technical indicators out there. I'm not saying this is the only one by any means, but I do find the combination particularly effective. So I'll get into the use of all these things later or in another video. But for now, I just want to show you how it is I'm setting these up in TradingView. So this is a view of SPY with the four types of pivots that I look at in the daily chart. I know the monthlies look a little cluttered with the levels, but I'll clear that up. So we've got yearly, half yearly, quarterly, and monthly. Just to clean things up a little bit, I'm going to hide the quarterly and monthly. There is an option to turn off the labels, which I do. Because I know what the lines are. If you're just starting and you want to kind of understand what the line, what you're looking at, you might want to leave the labels on. In any case, I'm going to turn off the monthly and quarterly. And so now we've just got yearly and half yearly. And so what else do we have going on? Well, I like simple moving averages. I know some people use exponential and sort of them. That's fine. Some people use VWAPs. I think all of these work. I see enough price action on the simple moving averages that I just keep to that. And I like a particular version in TradingView. It's not mine because it allows you to change the color based on slope. And I'll get into that in a minute. So this indicator, you just go to indicators, search, and it's CM and then underscore. So I've already got it favorite, but CM Ultimate MA MTF version 2, that's it. So this guy, I don't know too much about him, but he's obviously done a lot of custom scripts at TradingView. So here it is, you can favorite, so it shows up in your favorite. And I'm just going to add to the chart by clicking. And these are the defaults that he's got. So I like a slightly different version. So I'm going to settings. I'll just show you how as an example. Inputs, I'm going to start with the 10 MA instead of the 20. So just changing that to 10. I don't touch this. Change color based on direction, yes. And I'm going to uncheck this. I'm not using the second MA. I'll explain why in a minute. Style, I just put my 10 MAs in blue. I like the saturation 100%, but a thinner line. I think actually I'm using this blue. And then the red, same thing, saturation 100%, thinner line. You can pick something that you like. And then the second one I'm turning off. So the thing about the second moving average, it looks like we could save an indicator use here, but if that's selected, it changes color based on the second MA, which I don't want. So okay, that looks good. I think maybe we'll go to this. Yeah, that looks good. Blue and red for the 10 MA. And then all these things, you can just leave it. I don't really mess with those, and I'm not even sure where the yellow's coming in. Okay, so that's the 10 MA. I'll talk a little bit more about the slope in a minute. And then you just do it, repeat for the rest of the MAs. So I'm gonna, this is the 20 in orange, just the way I have it set up. 50 in purple, again, choose what colors you like, but always defaulting to the red on the downward sloping. And then 100, 200. And lately, I've been upon an enthusiastic recommendation by a very successful trader who swore up, about the 325. I was just curious, and I am seeing it's pretty good. And here's a good example. This is the 325. So I've got it in dots just to distinguish from the others in a slightly different color. So okay. So again, 10 MA, 20 MA, 50 MA, 100, 200, 325, and do what colors you like, but I keep them consistent across time periods. So I have a very similar setup, whether I'm looking at a 1-minute chart based on the MAs or a quarterly chart, all the same. And now just to show you a couple of examples of the importance of the slope, like this was a 200 MA break, but the slope was all positive, and sure enough, it came back. And when it's downward sloping, here's the opposite. Tried to recover, failed. Tried again, recover, failed. Well, the slope was downwards. The 200 MA was downward sloping, so it wasn't as likely to act as support. Kind of simple as that. there's a particularly notable example in Bitcoin that I think some of you will be interested in. This is last year. And so November, after the November high, I was sounding bearish alarms because it was below the yearly pivot. And it had damage, obviously, but it didn't go, it could have gone lower, came back, and then this moment, really critical, back tested the yearly pivot, back tested the 200 MA. These are the really long-term technical indicators that are important. And then, tried, fail, and then slope starts to turn red, so it's rolling over, and it's more likely resistance, and that was it. So that was led to a long bear market in Bitcoin. And here you can see the opposite. The 200 MA is starting to turn up because it's in black, flattish, so slightly downward sloping, but it held. And now we're good to go. The 200 MA is sloping up, and sure enough, dips are bought, and the declines are more muted. Even here, it dipped below, but the slope, it did change a little bit there, and in any case, came back. So I like the combination of the MAs and the slope. Okay, so what else do we have going on? Well, rest is not that hard. I have Bollinger Band standard settings, so you can adjust what line thickness and color that you like. I use the Bollinger Bands in various ways. Again, explanation will be in some video to follow. Volume I put on there. You don't have to. I have the setting as slightly opaque because I don't want to clutter up the chart. That's 15%. 15% green and red. And then the other indicators I have down here are for, again, various purposes. Stochastic, so that's just a standard stochastic, but I changed the settings so that the lines were a little more closer together. So I'm using 1433. So if you want to do that, you just go into stochastic and then see 1413. This is chop all over the place. I don't like the way it's too jarring. But if we change the settings, the inputs to 1433, then it's a little more smoothed out. And I kind of use this if we're not getting RSI extremes. But again, more about that on a later date. So I'm going to close this because we've already got it up there. Then RSI is standard settings. I like their RSI tool because it gives a color gradient when it's above the 70 or 30 line. I like that a lot. Again, I've probably just changed the colors to blue and orange. It's my personal preference. And then MACD, I have tweaked the setting, and I'll show you some examples why I did that. I thought a long time ago, I thought it was just too slow. So I fiddled around with it. And this is not a quant-based test or anything, but I just fiddled around with it to see lineups of pivot and MA status with the MACD signal line. So I kind of all often cluster. So the last MACD signal line was for S&P was November. And you see, okay, this was a little bit, it's not going to catch a low. MACD doesn't do it. It's a trend indicator. But the signal line went positive right in there, which is not too bad because it just cleared 50 MA for the first time in weeks, lifted from 20 MA. It's maybe not the best setup since the 50 MA was still falling at the time, but it was MACD trend up, and that's the last MACD signal change we've had, actually, months. So 7, 15, 5. Here are the settings, just fast length, slow length, and signal smoothing is 5. And so now I'm just going to show you a couple other examples. And once you have all these set up, you can create different layouts. So for example, on a long-term chart, monthly or quarterly, I don't want the pivots getting in the way because it's just too many years of information cluttering the scene. So here's NVIDIA on a monthly chart, and the Bollinger Bands, moving averages, all the same. We don't see the 325 because I don't think it is available on this instrument, but it would show up. I haven't turned it off or anything. And then the stochastic, RSI, MACD are the same. You can see why, again, they're all different kinds of moving average systems, but I mean, look at this, 10 MA perfect hold, the support on the monthly chart, 50 MA hold there. That's good enough. My timing is very complicated. I like my technicals to be simple. So then I'm going to say that is a layout indicator template, excuse me. And I've got, a handful. It's just long-term basic is the MAs, Bollinger Band, volume, and the 3 things below without any pivots. And then I use a weekly setup for obviously weekly chart, and it just it's hiding the quarterly and monthly pivots. So we've got yearly, half year, all the same moving averages, everything else the same, volume the same. And I just like things that are very clear. This is S&P. I mean, it may have had doubts right at the start of the fourth quarter, but as of in mid-November, even earlier, above all pivots, above the weekly, the ones on this chart, the yearly and half year, and above all moving averages. And sure enough, MACD, after a brief dip to negative territory, I'm going to expand that so you can see it returning to positive signal. So weekly SP going on by middle of November, just not something to debate about. And then the rising line held as support. There's no touch of any trend change. And now we have what happens here remains to be seen, but in terms of trend, super strong. And you can just look at that very easily because it's above a rising 10 MA. I'll say more about this in coming video. And then daily view, similar, except I'm adding the quarterly, monthly. Everything else is the same. 4 hour, I talked about the 4 hour pivots. And let's see. This has started to add weekly levels and the daily pivot only, but all the other settings, Bollinger Band, moving averages, the slope, all and stochastic RSI, all the same. And then down to the 30-minute chart, I just fill in more detail on the daily pivots themselves. So and maybe for some people there's just too many lines, but because I'm fluent and know what they're about, and I use them in different ways. Here was the one of the pivots on the ES that held exactly. It's a 5-minute chart. I just see over and over again these pivots working pretty well on key turns. So that's the setup. And again, I'm using these for my system of entry, and I have different entry setups that I look for, trade management or risk management, and exit. And the people that I've talked to were kind of not sure where to go in their trading, often do not have a system of these 3 components. So whatever it is, I think this is the most important thing, is to define your own system of what constitutes a good entry signal, what is your trade management, and then what is the exit system. If you try and do it in a haphazard way, it's just not going to work, because I think one of the hardest things to do is patience, waiting for that setup. You could do nothing for many bars, and then maybe you're talking on the phone or distracted, whatever, that one bar, and then the trade is missed, and you have to sit there and decide whether to chase it or do something else. Like in my view, on the 5-minute ES chart, there was really only a couple of good setups today. And so it's just a lot of waiting and observing what is happening. What is each bar saying, and does it constitute an entry signal? And if it does, then it's trade on, and then risk management and exit strategy follows. If not, then just have to sit and wait, because there's going to be another trade. Jumping in without that criteria is going to, in the long term, it's not going to work. That's my take. So that'll do it for today. Please comment if you have any questions. I'll answer questions on Twitter, YouTube. And that's it. Thanks for all your interest in my work. I appreciate your likes and subscribes. Good luck, everybody.